Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a video here to kind of go over rot. I get a lot of emails and questions about you know, how do I fix it and how do I patch a small section on the deck, and you know, how far do I need to take it. There's kind of the joke on the forums about like, I think it's the 4 or 5 stages of boat restoration is, you know, the realization that you got a problem, number 2 is denial, and then acceptance, and then repair. A lot of the emails I get, I know the guys are in denial, and I've been there, trust me. That means that you're kind of thinking, you know, I've got a little bit of a problem, but it's not as bad. Oh, I can just patch this small section of the deck, or, you know, oh, I can just go here. But as we've seen with most of my restorations, it's much worse than you think. You see a little bit of a soft spot, or you see something on the top. You kind of, oh, it might just be this, but it turns out it's bad. Once water makes an intrusion into a boat, it's bad. It's going to keep going and keep going. They make some products that you can sometimes stop the rot if you catch it in time, but you know, 8 out of 10 times you can't catch it. I mean, it's gone bad. I'm going to give you some examples here in a second, but you know, let me explain kind of how rot happens. There's 2 ways. First of all, you have a low spot in the deck where there's carpet and water sits in top if you leave it uncovered. Then it rots from the top, meaning water sits on top of the area and it just sits there and rots away. But that's not very often, because a lot of the boats that were made, I'd say probably in the last 15 years, have a fiberglass pan over them, or a fiberglass sheeting, so the water really doesn't, it just sits there and evaporates. It evaporates first off the deck. Where a real rot happens is from underneath. And that's a lot of times, you'll see a post on the forums and talked about all over the place, is that rot happens from the bottom. What happens is water gets underneath, it sits, it condensates up to the deck, and it doesn't have any place to evaporate. It sits there, and then the mold spores and all that stuff build, and it just soaks into that deck, because most of these manufacturers do not coat the underside of the deck, so therefore it's just open wood, so it just sits there and soaks in. So by the time you feel a soft spot, generally you got problems galore underneath. So let me show you kind of what a stringer looks like, and kind of explain the differences between the different types of wood and how they absorb water. Okay, what you're looking at is one of the stringers out of the boat. This is only about 3/4 of it, because the back half of it was completely rotten, because the bow was sitting up, and so all the water sat in the back. What happens is water makes it into the stringers and wicks all the way up the bottom. Or this one was kind of from the top, because this is where it's underneath the rear seat, and there was a belly in the floor or the deck, and the water was running through that way. So this was one of those rare circumstances. It was kind of rotten from the top. However, this is lumber, and what that means is like a 2x4. This looks like pine. It might be Douglas fir. But what that is it's a little more of a dense wood, and it does not absorb the water as fast as plywood does. The center dagger, or the center keel, did not. It's a plywood, and it just soaked it up like that. There was nothing to save. It was a complete waste or loss. You couldn't even save anything out of it. It was rotten all the way up, except for that little bitty part that I showed you guys earlier. So, rotting from the bottom. What happens is the water sits underneath here in the bottom, and it goes up against the deck, and it ruins everything. Oh, here's a piece of that dagger. See how rotten it is? And it just soaks up inside there, is what it does. And just ruins it, and that's what plywood looks like as it soaks up water. And this is just super, super, super brittle. So when you see a soft spot in your deck, generally the stringers down below look like this, or that plywood before. Glastron and a couple of other real shallow bottom boats are the only ones that I know that use this lumber method. Most of them use plywood as their center stringers, and those rot out the quickest. So anytime you guys have soft spots, you need to make sure you really, really go in depth and investigate, and make sure that you don't have this type of problem. Because once the deck actually has a soft spot, most of the time you're dealing with something like this. Maybe not as bad. You might be able to patch a couple of the stringers or something, but 9 times out of 10 you've got major, major problems. That's why when I'm looking for boats or looking for anything, that's the first thing you do, is walk every inch of the deck after what I got burned on that Sea Ray. Just want to make sure it's 100% okay. So hopefully this helps as far as rotting is concerned. I would definitely, definitely advise everyone to do more investigation before they just try to patch a deck. It's not very often you can just put a little patch in there and go out on the lake.